shout out to Tony. I'm going to drop a link in the top comment to his YouTube page. I was following the Timepiece Gentleman at one point, and I'll tell you why I started to question some of the stuff and I had to stop tuning in. And now I saw some of the news that popped up in the last couple days, and I'm like, all right, well, it kind of all makes sense now. But Tony popped up. A lot of times I leave my YouTube on autoplay, and I'm into watches, so and I watched Timepiece Gentleman before, so Tony popped up and went into all these details, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna do a quick episode just to tell you, as a watch fan, as somebody that owns a handful of companies, some of the stuff that when I see people doing things and I look at my own circle of friends and the kind of money they have, sometimes it doesn't match up with the things you see on like social media. And that's the big thing that's when I decided to tune out. Watch in the background, just some watch porn for you. I have this watch in like the bronze color. I can't even say it right. It's like Antoine Descent. They made me like 750. I want to get the blue one, but when I call my AD, they can't get them. And it's like, well, I would like to see it in person before you buy one. But this is probably one of my next purchases, and I'm on a waiting list for a Rolex Deep Sea James Cameron, the blue dial. But who knows? Rolex are saying right now through ADs they can't even order them. So who knows when the hell that watch is going to come in? It's like trying to get a hold of anything else right now. Everything's sold out. But I'll tell you, I'm listening to Tony talk about all the stuff going on. What was the other guy's name? I've not tuned in for a minute. Roman, was it Anthony and Roman were their like business partners, and then Anthony was bridging to go to like LA and started this whole new gig. But when I started to see stuff like, and I'm pulling from memory here, like private planes is one thing that I look out for. And like I have one of those private plane memberships. I know exactly like how much it costs to do private planes. And when I see people that start acting like that and they're not doing like Uber shares with the planes and they're doing it by themselves, I start questioning things. Look, just so if you never did a private plane before, you can charter them. They're a little bit cheaper. You can have a membership like NetJets or the old Marquis Jet card. Essentially, you can do wheels up. Sometimes charters straight up are cheaper, but they're not that much cheaper. You're still gonna you're not gonna get on a plane for like less than $4,000 an hour, unless you're a fractional owner. Even if you get on a King Air or something, if it's just you and you're not splitting it between other passengers, it's going to cost you $4,000 an hour, $5,000 an hour. You want to get into a light jet, $6,000 to $7,000 an hour. You want to get into a mid jet, $75,000 to $8,000 an hour. A super mid, $8,000 to $9,000 an hour. When I say super mid, maybe 10, 11 passengers, 12 passengers. So just when you see people taking a 2-hour plane ride, just the one way, not a round trip. A one way is probably going to cost someone $8,000 to $10,000 on the low side, $15,000 to maybe $20,000 if it's a mid or a super mid jet, if you know your jet talk. So I'm looking at round trips and people are spending $20,000 to $30,000 on one plane ride. Like I know what it costs because I have a jet card, and I know many people who got way more money than I do, and I just know what the stuff costs. And I know the kind of money they make. I know what their net worth is. And I'm not sure that these guys selling watches on the gray market are balling like that. So that was like the big red flag to me when they start. I get it. You go to fancy hotels. Look, you want to go a Four Seasons, it's going to cost you, who knows, $1,000 a night. It's not that hard to spend that much eating at the resort. And then, by the time you get the room, $1,000 to $2,000 a night, maybe up to $3,000 a night. Maybe you got an American Express Platinum or Black card. You originally sign up for the $1,000 a night suite, and then you get the automatic bump when you get there, and then you can get like a $22, $25 suite. Now you're staying in a place that looks like a $25 suite, but you're only paying $1,000. There's all these games people play, right? But as they started integrating in more of the sports cars or the exotic cars and what it looks like, private jets. And what really did it was the apartment in, was it LA, for 100,000 a month or something, which I don't think I even seen that on YouTube. I think I saw it on Instagram through some real estate thing. To drop $1.2 million on a rental, which I think is funny because people always say, well, it's a write off. It's like the biggest laugh of any accountant in the world. Like, it's a write off. It still costs money. You still have to spend the $1.2 million. So it's not like the write off is free money. It's a very, you don't ever hear wealthy people say that. I'm always looking at the way people without money talk is they think this is how wealthy people talk. And it's like, well, this is the way you would think if you were in a wealthy person's shoes, but you're not in a wealthy person's shoes, so you don't really sound like one. So let's think of if you're doing 25 million in sales on watches and you're clearing 2.5, and that's with a generous 10% margin, you pay taxes on that crap, and maybe you're left with 1.5. Are you telling me that you cleared 1.5 and you're going to spend 1.2 on an apartment lease? Where's that? Anyone I know that would spend $1.2 million annually on anything in terms of like real estate, they probably would have a net worth, liquid net worth, keep in mind, liquid. Low side $25 million, probably closer to $35, $40 million before they would ever spend that kind of money on one place. You can call it office space, you can call it whatever you want to call it. Did I think Anthony had that kind of money? Maybe he did. I don't know. I know what it takes to fly on planes privately. I mean, I think sometimes people shoot videos to make it seem like they're flying on planes, but there are regional operators where you're not in a terminal. You get to walk up on the, like you just pulled up in front of it. And the way they shoot the videos, it makes it look like a private plane, but it's really just a regional service. And, those tickets sometimes are a couple $100 for like a short hopper. You used to have one in Michigan that you could go from Oakland County Airport to Chicago. And it's a few $100s that you could fly on in King Air and not have to deal with the terminal, and you're kind of walking on it. But you are on the plane with, who knows, 10, 12 other people who are paying for tickets. The cars don't impress me. I knew many people that have bought used Audi R8s, the little bit older, less desirable Lamborghinis and even Ferraris. You can get crazy financing even on a used Ferrari. I'm sure there's someone out there that would finance those things for like 10 years. It's not that hard. Any Joe Schmo that makes even a few bucks, and I say a few bucks, 100,000. If they want to spend most of their disposable income on a car, they can probably get one. Cars don't impress me. I start looking at, I start judging people by big real estate they own, don't rent. And then I look at like boats and planes. It's not that hard to lease a McLaren or a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or one of these things if you got a little bit of income. I start, oh, you know what? There's another watch show, and I'll have to look it up, and I think they're in Florida too. That I think they're a little bit lifestyle, but they're mostly just about the watches. But I want to say in the last year or so, they just bought a TR-44 coupe. I have that same boat. I don't know if they ordered their new or used. I bought my new. I know what that thing cost. I know what the custom work cost. And I'm like, all right, well, I know it's a little bit harder to buy those boats than it is to like lease or buy a Ferrari. So I'm like, okay, this guy's got a certain level of net worth to even buy that boat. So I tend to like, okay, maybe they're a little bit more legitimate. And who knows? Maybe it wasn't even his boat. Maybe it's just a buddy's boat they borrowed for the show. But I started looking at things that require a certain like line item for if you ever had to do a personal financial statement. If when you buy expensive things, sometimes the banks just straight up say, "Hey, I need bank statements to back all this stuff up." If you've ever done commercial leases, 5, 7, 10-year leases that are going to be $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 or more, you got to do personal financial statements, and sometimes you got to back up your assets, or at least your money's tied up in equities, right? They want to see that. You don't have to do that a lot of the time to go buy a used Audi R8, for example, and say you got an exotic car. A little different when you're buying planes, expensive real estate, boats, yachts, and that type of stuff. So you start looking through people, and it's like your gray market watch sellers. Can you really afford to spend the money on a $40,000 plane ride? Can you really afford one or two or three of these cars? Can you afford $100,000 in rent? Whether it's office space, you can call it whatever you want to call it. It's just, they say, there's that saying, and I'm probably going to screw it up, but if you want someone to believe the lie, you tell a lie so big they have to believe it. And I just feel like it was such a big stretch for the apartment to go to $100,000 a month. That maybe, and I'm not saying it's lying because I don't know. I'm just saying like that's when I'm like, I don't, the kind of income you have to generate to afford that. Now, the only thing that could be happening, and I've seen this in the music industry because I do a little bit of work in the music industry. There's these money people that come in. It could be private equity, and all of a sudden you see somebody that was, a SoundCloud rapper, and the next time you look at them, their Instagram's blowing up, and they got a couple $100K in jewelry. They got a car. They're flying on private jets. It's like you haven't even signed a deal, and you don't even have like a big underground following or independent following, like say Tech Nine or somebody. But all of a sudden, they're just balling out of control, and you realize there was an investor that came along to help them build up that profile of wealth and success. And it's not because they're doing well. It's just that they got some funding so they can start getting attention and people will start believing in them. So I'm going to put the question out there. Is it possible that, Anthony just has like a private equity investor or an investor that came along and say, hey, let's turn you into a YouTube star. And, we'll rent this place. We'll lease some cars. We'll do all this stuff. And, in the end, if they start generating the kind of revenue, like look up someone like Whistling Diesel, the kind of money they're making with his channel right now, for example. There's a lot of money to be made if you can get the views and get the sponsors and all that stuff to go with it. Now, when I look at Anthony's channel right now, he's at like 3.5 million views, roughly, I think I saw. I mean, even if you're getting $10 CPM, and that's $10 in marketing terms, that's $10 for every 1,000 views. It's your ad, or every view your video gets played. So you're getting around $10 per 1,000. At 3.5 million views, I mean, it's like $35,000 off the top of my head doing rough math. Not a lot of money. Even if you're getting 15 CPM or more, what did you make on 3.5 million views? Like $50,000-$60,000? Like doesn't even cover 1 month's rent of that apartment or condo, whatever you want to call that house. So when you start looking at the math behind this, it's like you're not generating like $300K a month on your YouTube channel. How are you paying for all this stuff and taxes? That's where I'm like, I'm just not I'm not into this anymore. I like when they were going to the watch shows. There was some other interesting stuff, but I always felt like there was a time they got scammed on a watch, and that seemed weird to me. They had like a power outage or something, and they couldn't do verification on a credit card. I don't know. That was like, I started to get suspect there, and then it's like they moved into more of the lifestyle, and it's like they wanted to turn into this big, like, kind of balling out of control party lifestyle channel with the cars and the travel and the homes. And I guess I don't know the watch business enough, but I assumed, I mean, Jesus, even if you're doing $100 million in sales at 10%, that's only 10 million, and after taxes, you're going to have about 6. And you got to whack that up between your employees and the two owners. Is that even enough to live that lifestyle consistently? So, yeah, I just, start looking at people and say, can you really afford that plane? Can you afford that boat? Where are you getting the money from this? Like, you just think about it. For every million views, if the content's decent and there's not a lot of cussing and it's for the right audience, like dumb stuff doesn't get a high CPM on YouTube, but stuff talking about money and stocks and business and real estate with no cussing, you can get 10, 15, maybe $20 CPM sometimes for that. You got a much greater chance of someone like Porsche advertising on a channel talking about stocks than they would a channel that's just playing video games. Porsche wouldn't even want to advertise on that. So you got to think about it. It's for every million views, someone might make $10,000 if they're lucky. Low side, $2,000, $2 CPM. So it's like if you don't see someone making, doing hundreds and hundreds of millions of views plus sponsors, they're probably not getting the money from their YouTube channel and social media. And then you say, well, then they're 5 to 10% margin on the watches. It just mathematically, you put this all together, and you're not spending $40,000 on plane rides. You're not spending $100,000 on the rent. You're not tying up all the money on the luxury cars. You're trying to look rich to build up a reality TV show, and maybe that's the end goal. They maybe some PE guy came in, got them the funding, said we're going to give you the profile. Maybe we can get you on TV someday. Maybe you can get your own TV show, get you on a Netflix, your own show. Or we build a YouTube channel up so big, like you see over like what Whistle Diesel does, and I think he's part of Bunker Branding, and I forgot that guy's name, Demo Ranch or something. They got a huge following and a bazillion views, and they're just making money and they're selling swag. And so maybe there was a bigger plan there, but I think you really jumped the gun with the lifestyle. It wasn't lifestyle creep where you start making money, you spend a little more money. You make some more money, you spend a little more money. It was these huge leaps to where all of a sudden, at least $100,000 a month places, like I'm not feeling it. And then listening to Tony, I'm not listening to all the other stuff going on, but there's been like robberies and break-ins, and there's like the social media is going dark, and it always seems to be some crazy stuff going on. And it's like, how is it? Do you know anybody? Like, I know people in the jewelry industry that make a lot of money. Like, a lot of money. They don't ever have this trouble. They don't have break-ins. They have none of this drama. They've been in the jewelry business with their families for decades. Never have any of this drama. And it's just, at some point, it just doesn't all add up. And it's like, what am I watching? There's so much content on YouTube. Like I said, there's that other guy that has a Tierra boat, and I have to go look him up, to see what his, I forget. I don't pay attention to people's names really. But it seemed like, they're watch sellers, they're jewelry people, and it seemed like they just ran a stable business that doesn't have all these ups and downs, and it just feels like when I was watching the Timepiece Gentleman, it was constant ups and downs. And there was always something going on, and it just didn't feel right. And there's too much content out there on the internet to get. I don't want to feel like you're just getting duped all the time with stuff. I'm not saying that's what happened. It's just how you feel sometimes. So, anyways, that's why I stopped watching that channel. And I saw a video from Anthony's partner that also popped up right around when Tony's video popped up. That I think he was saying he's cutting all ties with Anthony, and they were going to get rid of all the old videos. That's a big red flag for me personally. Because if you have videos out there that are, your channel's monetized, you're making money on those videos, there's either incriminating evidence in the videos, or there's something that who knows if it's, someone in the cast or one of the employees or somebody, maybe it's Anthony, maybe it's, I don't know. But there's something in those videos they don't want to be associated with anymore. And I think that's what you got to pay attention to. There's probably some bad news coming that we're not aware of yet, and they don't want to be associated with it. So they're going to just clean all their stuff out. They're going to rebrand and start over because they just don't want to be associated with whatever the hell's coming. You've seen this happen before in other instances of YouTube channels or news channels that made mistakes, but they had videos of certain things and they didn't want to be associated with. So people are saying it's a bad mistake to take all the content down. And you're right. From a monetary standpoint, making money and bringing in views, yeah, it sucks. But they wouldn't take those down for no reason. Something is coming, and they don't want to be associated with it. They're trying to completely scrub that relationship right now. So who knows what's going to happen here. Anyways, you have probably been following this a lot more than I have. So if you got something that I missed, drop a comment below. I just wanted to give you the why. It's just one of those things that I grew up without much money, and I remember how I used to think, what it was, what people did who had money, and then when you got some money, you realize that's not how people acted at all. And I just always felt that way as a channel kind of changed and tried to get more baller. And it's like I just don't. This technically isn't how people with money usually do things. And then you know how much things cost and what it takes to really afford those things. And I just felt something was off. Doesn't mean he doesn't have the money. Doesn't mean he's not bankrolled by somebody. It's just that I put two and two together, and I know what it takes to generate wealth, and I couldn't make the math work. So, anyways, that's all I got for this one. I'll catch you on the next one.